Ethan was a boy who lived in a quiet American town, surrounded by dense forests and a river so deep nobody knew how far down it went. Every weekend, he went swimming there with his two best friends, Tyler and Mason. During the day, the river looked beautiful. Sunlight danced across the surface, the breeze was cool, and the water felt perfect against their skin. But the older people in town always warned them never to stay near the river after sunset. They said something lived there, something that watched. Ethan never believed the stories. One Friday night, unable to sleep, Ethan turned on the dusty old radio beside his bed. Static crackled through the speaker until a strange station suddenly appeared. No music, no introduction, just a man speaking in a wet, rasping voice, like his throat was filled with blood.
"Tonight," the man whispered, "we discuss the mimic." The radio hissed loudly. "It waits beneath rivers, watching, learning. It steals clothing from swimmers and wears their skin. Once it enters a home, it feeds." Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine. They say the creature cannot perfectly imitate human behavior. Sometimes it says the wrong things. The broadcast suddenly cut to static. Ethan quickly shut the radio off. But even after the room became silent, he could still hear faint breathing coming from the speaker. The next afternoon, Ethan met Tyler and Mason at the river. The weather was perfect. Birds chirped overhead, while sunlight shimmered across the water. But Ethan couldn't relax. Every few seconds, he glanced nervously at the pile of clothes lying on the riverbank. "You all right?" Tyler asked.
"Did either of you hear that radio station last night?" Ethan whispered. "What station?" Mason replied. "The one talking about the creature that steals clothes." Tyler laughed. "That sounds fake." "No, seriously," Ethan said. "It steals your clothes and then it—" A voice suddenly interrupted him. "Forget it. That story is a hoax." The three boys froze. The voice didn't come from Tyler or Mason. It came from behind them. Slowly, they turned around. Nobody was there. Only the river. The water rippled gently against the shore. Tyler forced a nervous laugh and jumped back into the water. Mason followed him a second later. After a moment, Ethan convinced himself he was imagining things and dove back in, too. The water felt colder now, much colder. As Ethan swam farther out, something brushed against his leg beneath the surface. Not a fish, a hand. Ice-cold fingers wrapped around his ankle. Before he could scream, something yanked him violently underwater. Tyler and Mason surfaced, laughing at first, expecting Ethan to jump back up. But he never did. Bubbles exploded across the surface. Then blood. Dark red blood slowly spreading through the river. Terrified, the boys ran home without looking back. That evening, just before sunset, Ethan returned home. At least, something wearing Ethan's clothes did. His mother immediately felt uneasy. His clothes were soaking wet despite the dry weather outside. Water dripped from his sleeves onto the floorboards. His skin looked pale gray, almost corpse-like. And when she hugged him, his body was freezing cold. "You should take a hot shower," she told him nervously. Ethan simply stared at her. Then smiled. The smile stretched far too wide across his face. At dinner, he barely spoke. He only watched his parents silently, while muddy river water dripped from his mouth onto the table. That night, around 2:13 a.m., the neighbors heard screaming. Not normal screaming. Animal screaming. Wet, tearing sounds echoed through the house. Furniture crashed against walls. Something heavy crawled across the ceiling above them. Then, silence. The next morning, police entered the home. The walls were covered in blood. Pieces of flesh hung from the ceiling fan. Ethan's parents had been ripped apart so violently, investigators believed a wild animal had attacked them. But the bedroom door had been locked from the inside, and muddy, barefoot footprints led directly into the bathroom. The bathtub was filled with dark river water. Floating inside was a pile of human skin. Ethan's skin. Hours later, police dragged the river. Deep beneath the surface, tangled between rocks, they found the real Ethan. His corpse had no eyes, no tongue. And according to investigators, he had died sometime between 4 and 5 p.m. the previous day. Tyler and Mason were questioned separately by police. Both boys repeated the exact same thing. When Ethan talked about the creature, neither of us said, "Forget it. That story is a hoax." Police assumed trauma had damaged their memories. But years later, Mason confessed something he had never told anyone. When they turned toward the voice near the river, for one brief second, he saw a face staring up at them from beneath the water. Pale, smiling, wearing Ethan's face, before Ethan had even disappeared. There's an urban legend in a small town in Montana about a road called Willow Creek Lane. People say if you drive down it after 1:13 a.m., you'll eventually pass a woman standing on the side of the road, holding a dead cell phone. Nobody knows who she is. Nobody knows where she came from. But everyone in town knows the rule. Never answer her if she asks to use your phone. A college student named Ryan learned that rule too late. One winter night, Ryan was driving home after visiting a friend in another town. Snow fell heavily across the empty highway, and thick fog rolled between the trees. His GPS suddenly lost signal near Willow Creek Lane. That's when he saw her. A woman standing beside the road, barefoot, wearing a thin white dress despite the freezing weather. Her long black hair covered most of her face, and in one hand she held an old, cracked cell phone. Ryan slowed the car. At first, he thought she might be injured. Then he noticed something strange. She wasn't breathing. No fog came from her mouth in the freezing air. The woman slowly lifted her head. "Please," she whispered. "My phone died. Can I use yours?" Ryan hesitated. Every instinct told him to drive away. But she looked terrified. So he unlocked the doors. The woman climbed into the back seat. The moment she sat down, the inside of the car became freezing cold. Ryan tried not to look at her through the mirror. "Who are you calling?" he asked nervously. The woman didn't answer. Instead, he heard her dialing numbers behind him. Beep. 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 Then, silence. A few seconds later,
Ryan's own phone began ringing in his pocket. Confused, he pulled it out. The screen displayed unknown caller. Ryan answered carefully. "Hello?" A weak, trembling voice came through the speaker. "Don't let her know you can hear me." Ryan's blood turned cold. The voice sounded exactly like his own. "What?" "You picked her up," the voice whispered. "Oh God, she's in the car with you now." Ryan slowly looked into the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty, but he could still hear breathing directly behind his ear. "You need to crash the car before she..." The call suddenly disconnected. At that exact moment, Ryan's headlights illuminated something horrifying ahead. Dozens of abandoned cars lined both sides of Willow Creek Lane. Every driver's door hung open, and beside each car stood a motionless figure staring toward him from the darkness. Men, women, children, all soaking wet, all holding dead cell phones. Ryan slammed on the brakes. The car skidded violently across the icy road before stopping inches away from a tree. His breathing shook uncontrollably. Then, a voice whispered from the back seat. "You answered." Ryan turned slowly. The woman was sitting directly behind him now, closer than before. Her face no longer hidden. Her jaw stretched unnaturally wide, splitting open to her ears. Black water poured endlessly from her mouth, while dozens of cell phone ringtones echoed inside her throat. And deep within that darkness, Ryan could see human faces moving, screaming. The next morning, police found Ryan's car abandoned on Willow Creek Lane. The driver's door was open. His phone was still inside. The last outgoing call had been made to his own number at exactly 1:13 a.m. Ryan was never seen again. But according to locals, if you drive down Willow Creek Lane late at night, sometimes your phone will suddenly ring, even without signal. And if you answer, you'll hear Ryan whispering, "Don't stop the car."